Good afternoon and welcome to this special broadcast for the Deloitte Transparency and Impact Reports here on CNBC Africa. My name is Godfrey Mutizwa. Now, trust is a curious thing. It is at once the most fragile if broken, but also forms the strongest of bonds when upheld. Now, with South Africa's recent brush with state capture, it has certainly scarred the industry. And as the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors says, quote, key to restoring confidence in the auditing profession is absolutely building transparency reporting. So this is going to be the key to our discussion this afternoon. Let me welcome you all to Deloitte's fourth transparency report, whose theme this year is Building Better Futures. Our panelists, Rueda Redfern, she's Chief Executive Officer, Deloitte Africa. We're also being joined on the program by Eric Chabalala, Audit and Assurance Managing Partner. And last but certainly not least, Deloitte Africa's Ashley Theophanidis. She is Chief Sustainability Officer, the brightest and the newest pin on the grid. Welcome you all. Rueda, let me begin with you, because as it so happens, we're marking 100 days of you in office. So before we talk about transparency stuff, I wanted to give you an opportunity to reflect on the journey that you have made, and the things that you have seen, and the dreams and future that you're building.
Thank you, Godfrey. So it's actually been 139 days in office.
Oh, wow.
But who's counting, right? It has been a remarkable journey. And I always describe my 139 days as a combination of exhilarating, challenging, and just emotional at the same time. I've spent the first 139 days really trying to connect with our people in the organization. You know, bearing in mind that after 2.5 to 3 years of COVID, we really haven't had a chance to connect. So I thought it was important that I connect with our people. I've spent time meeting our clients again on a face-to-face basis and just connecting once again. And then also, you know, I really do believe that in coming up with a strategy for the organization, I needed to surround myself with the best team. And so I've made sure that I've put together an executive committee, a structure that supports our strategy for growth for the future. And I guess the three appointments that I do want to talk about that are new in the structure would include Ashley's role as Chief Sustainability Officer. I've also included a Managing Director for businesses, who is there to ensure that there's collaboration across our service lines and our various markets. And then also a refreshed approach to risk and quality management with the appointment of a Chief Risk Officer.
Sure. So you described it as challenging and emotional. I wanted to reflect a little bit just on the challenging aspect of it. Which parts have you found the most challenging? Is it because you're a woman who's walking into an institution that's very, very old and is set in its ways?
In fact, I don't think that that's the part that's been challenging. If anything, the response from our people internally, as well as business at large, has been extremely supportive. So perhaps challenging in the sense of the responsibility that I feel, to make sure that our organization continues to grow, that our organization continues to restore trust, and that we continue to play a role of building confidence in our capital markets, which is key for us. And so that's the part that's challenging. And obviously the auditing profession in particular has been under scrutiny of late. And therefore it is challenging to understand what role is it that we as Deloitte Africa can play in restoring that trust. And
you have begun. So you have got this report that we are reflecting on today. Let's talk about the main themes that you're developing there.
So as I said, we put out this report. It's our fourth report. And we believe that it is our responsibility to uphold trust in the economy. And there are a couple of themes that we've talked about. Firstly, we've talked about how our business operates. In other words, what are the governance structures that are in operation? What role is it that Deloitte Africa plays globally as well? But we've talked about some of the green shoots that we've seen in quality, particularly in the audit business, as well as how we've embedded quality in every single thing that we do. The report also talks about how we create value to our clients in the services that we provide, how we've put our people at the heart of the organization, and I alluded to, 2.5 years under COVID and not being able to connect, and therefore it's important. We are a people business after all. And then, finally, how we're making a really measurable impact in the profession at large, as well as the economies and the societies that we serve.
Yeah, one of the themes I want to develop with you, I'm looking forward to that conversation, is profit beyond purpose. I really want to dig into this one. Eric, let me come to you.
So I must, it is, and I am very passionate about this, it's purpose beyond profit. And we'll
purpose beyond profit. Right. Purpose beyond profit. Okay, Eric, you sit on one of those chairs where the scrutiny that she's been talking about is probably the harshest in terms of judgment, in terms of expectations. Talk to me about what you lay out in this report that's important in restoring the trust that we've been talking about.
Yeah, Godfrey, audit quality has been the focal point for us as a firm. I guess over the past 3 to 4 years, we've really put a lot of investment into a program that we call Future Fit. And the idea was really to put quality at the forefront, forefront of our leaders, forefront of our partners, forefront of our practitioners. And what this really did was to really force us to think about how do we build a sustainable audit business that effectively puts quality first and also drives sustainability in terms of the quality of work that we do. We've actually started to see some of the green shoots.
Right.
What we've seen is significant improvement in both internal reviews in terms of the quality of the work, as well as the URBA with regards to the external reviews that they actually do. So we believe that the investments in quality are starting to pay off. What we did as part of that process was also get quite senior people, both locally as well as internationally, to actually help us to actually navigate through the challenges. And we believe that the processes that we've put in place have really put us quite forward in terms of progressing this quality journey.
Yeah. How difficult is this, Eric, given a lot of what you are dealing with is perceptions?
It's difficult. But I think what you need to understand is public perception is an outcome of things that happened in the past.
Right.
So what we have reflected on is to say, let's understand what are those gaps. Let's understand what is it that's within our control that we can actually change in order to influence quality going forward.
Yeah.
And we believe that what we've put in place has actually put us forward to continue to deliver uncompromising quality on a sustainable basis kind of going forward.
Yeah, and we're going to come back and talk about some of the results that you're seeing as a result of the work that you've put in. And also, of course, you sit with that difficult role of looking at both the audit as well as the advisory side. Actually, let me come to you. You, as I said at the beginning, are a newbie to an extent because your role is new as Chief Sustainability Officer. I wanted to begin first by what mandate you were given before we talk about how you're going to go about it.
Thank you so much, Godfrey. So a little bit earlier, you made the slight faux pas by saying profit beyond.
I can assure you it wasn't deliberate.
No, don't worry. Many people make that mistake. But ultimately, as an organization, it is critical for us to be purpose in everything that we do.
Sure.
And in order to do that, there are a few clear building blocks that we've identified in order to ensure that we can actually achieve this. So in order to do that, we've identified that we have a responsibility in order to drive our responsible business initiatives and principles into everything that we do, in order to ensure that the way in which we engage with the business community as well as broader society aligns to our values. As part of that, as you can imagine, there are a number of initiatives around world climate, ensuring that both ourselves as well as our clients really embrace the new science-based targets and ensure that we are clear and reasonable in terms of what that means.
Yeah.
And in addition to this, we know that education, agriculture, and entrepreneurship is absolutely critical for us to drive meaningful impact. So as part of our global mandate of looking to touch 100 million lives, of which 20 million will be in South Africa.
Yeah.
We are working with a number of organizations in order to embed many of the initiatives in order to ensure that we can make the African continent a better place.
You said 100 million
100
lives.
Lives. That is
20 million in South Africa.
in Africa.
In Africa.
In Africa,
How
yes.
are you going to do that? You know, when you say touch, what does that mean?
So the three broad pillars that we've identified, as I mentioned, is entrepreneurship, education, and agriculture.
Okay.
And one of the
Interesting
ways
choices, actually.
they are, and I think they will evolve over time. So we've also seen other initiatives such as healthcare and our Healthcare Equity Institute that we've also created being pivotal. But in terms of the two key pillars that we've identified, we've actually had the opportunity to partner with the World Economic Forum.
Okay.
And specifically in terms of the Uplink Challenge, where we've identified a number of entrepreneurs who are looking to embed education type solutions across the continent to scale it and to bring access to quality education. So being able to support these entrepreneurs through our, first of all, funding, but then also supporting them in scaling their solutions is some of the initiatives that we've already started on.
Yeah. I wanted to follow up on education and entrepreneurship and ask why. But in part, I know the answer, but I still want your details, but I'm going to come back to you. Rueda, I wanted you to develop the other broad theme that you are discussing in this year's report, the issue around holding yourselves accountable. This is a difficult one. Even for us in the media industry, it's one that we've struggled with, and some people say actually what we should have is a system that actually enforces on us legal obligations to ensure that we're able to do our work. But let me give you the opportunity to talk about you doing what you need to do without a stick over your head.
So I think, and I really do believe that it starts with this concept about purpose.
Yeah.
Right? We are 6,500 people in Deloitte Africa in 13 countries across the continent.
Sure.
415,000 people globally. And we fundamentally believe that what we do matters and that our role is to serve in the public interest. And that role of serving in the public interest has become our benchmark, our barometer for how we want to operate. So, you know, we don't want to necessarily, we want to create an organization where we don't need a stick to guide us.
Right.
We want to be led by our purpose of making an impact that matters to our people, our clients, and to the societies that we live in. And so what we've been working very hard over the last 3 to 4 years as part of this Future Fit project and as part of getting quality right, and the quality that we're talking about, and yes, there's a huge emphasis on the audit business, but the quality strides that we have made cut across all of our service lines, and we have 5 service lines in total. But we want to put in place the right quality measures, the right safeguards that will ensure that we can uphold that public trust. And so the exercise that Eric talks about, Future Fit, you know, we looked at a number of, you know, we did root cause analysis, deep dives to understand what are the levers that drive quality outcomes. And that's what we've been working on over the last few years. One of those levers is an accountability framework where we allow or we hold our partners and our staff accountable for the work that they perform.
I'm interested in that one because I think on another platform, on another forum, there was a description of actually how that works out. And I'm hoping we can get the detail of that. But I wanted to follow up and just ask a question around where regulation fits in, the broader regulatory environment, plus of course the independent self-regulation of the industry itself.
So currently the audit firms are regulated by the Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors, the IRBA. And you know, we believe, certainly as Deloitte Africa, that it is in the profession's best interest to have a strong regulator. And we are committed to continuing working with the regulator to make sure that, you know, they do their job. Right now, you know, there's a lot of, there's significant conversation around regulating the entire financial reporting ecosystem. Because right now, the auditors are regulated right, by the IRBA, but there are other actors in the financial reporting ecosystems, management, your executive, your non-executive, internal audit, and various other players who, in total come up with or give comfort around financial statements. And not all of these actors at this point in time are regulated. And that's a conversation that's ongoing in the economy about how is it that we regulate the other actors, what is right. Right now, our profession is focused, and Deloitte Africa is focused on we're making the changes that we can, and that's what we're busy with.
But who regulates these other people? I mean, I know, as you said, this conversation is beginning, but I'm just curious to know from your perspective, who then should play that regulatory role for these other players who are outside the ecosystem that you're talking about now?
So right now, you have the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, SAICA, who doesn't really regulate, but certainly looks after the interests of chartered accountants.
Yeah.
There's the JSE, who looks after the interests of companies and shareholders. And, to some extent, the JSE has a mandate to look after, directors and board members.
Yeah.
But it all needs to come together.
Yeah.
We need strong regulation across that financial reporting ecosystem.
Yeah.
And these are the conversations that are definitely ongoing at this point in time.
It's a story I'm certainly going to follow up. I can promise you that. Eric, I want to come to you and talk about Future Fit, and I want to know how far you have gone with this program.
Yeah, so Godfrey, I'll talk about the URBA results.
Yeah.
So when we started Future Fit back in 2019, we were sitting at about 50% what we say good or acceptable quality outcomes in terms of the files that got reviewed by the regulator. We implemented Future Fit in 2019, and by 2021, we saw significant progress to around 78% of our files which were reviewed being good acceptable. Inside
the pandemic?
During the pandemic.
During the pandemic, that's what I'm saying, inside the pandemic.
And I guess, Godfrey, in 2022, the regulator has recently given us feedback to saying, the files that they have reviewed this year, all of them, 100%, have received good, acceptable quality.
Sure.
So we're proud of the steps that we've made, and this is testament, to the investment that we've made through Future Fit.
Yeah. What does it take? What did it take?
It took a lot. I think, it's, we're here because great leadership in terms of saying, we really need to focus on building a sustainable business. We couldn't do this without our people. So the partners, who actually execute on our clients, they were instrumental in making sure we are and bringing, everybody along in terms of our managers, our staff.
Yeah.
So there was an element of leadership and behavior that needed to be there. But also it took a lot of investment in terms of making sure we got the right processes in place.
Yeah.
And also the right support structures to ensure that, we're supporting our people in delivering quality audits.
Yeah. But I suppose, Rueda, the challenge once you get there is to stay there. What's that going to require?
So just to the previous question, I think that one of the things that we did correctly was tone at the top.
Right.
Now I'm taking over, from my predecessor, where there's a solid foundation and the business is in really good shape, and the tone at the top was there.
I remember you.
Right. So, and quality is my number one KPC as the CEO, and it is the number one KPC of every single professional in our organization. But we are determined that we will never let complacency set back into our organization. And that means that continuous improvement is exactly that. Quality is an ongoing journey.
Yeah.
Yes, we're at 100% good or acceptable ratings of the selected files that were reviewed, but we don't want to get back to the 50%.
Oh, so it's not everything, it's selected.
No, it is selected files that are reviewed. And in addition to that, we do our own internal practice reviews.
Right.
But again, we call it internal practice reviews because they are conducted by other member firms within Deloitte, not the partners within our partnership. But, let's badge it correctly and call it internal.
Yeah.
We refuse to let complacency set in. And I think what it takes is this ongoing investment in quality. And certainly the next phase of our audit quality journey is making sure that all the geographies under Deloitte Africa have the consistent processes.
Yeah.
We are in the process of rolling out new audit software across the African continent. And again, that ensures consistency in how we deliver our audits.
Yeah.
And then it requires an ongoing investment in technology and tools that support audits.
Yeah.
So, the days of doing sample selections when you are testing a certain section in an audit file,
Yeah.
we are quickly moving away from those from those days. Nowadays, we're using data analytics, big data to download information, various types of information, download our clients' general ledgers, and we can now look at bigger populations, create our own expectations of what we expect an outcome to be, especially when it comes to areas of judgment. And we can give more assurance, being smarter by using tools and technology.
Sure.
And I think that's what it's going to take to ensure that we retain this audit quality at this high benchmark that we've set for ourselves.
Yeah, and I suppose in part this speaks to Ashley, right? You're investing in people, you're investing in technology, and you're investing in making sure that what you've done today is going to be there for future generations. So I wanted to talk about the other side, that you are also impacting your clients. It's not just about the people inside the organization, it's about the people outside the organization. Let's talk to that.
Thank you, Godfrey. So I think one of the important aspects that we are really looking to consider is every single job that we do, every single assignment that we're involved in, is how do we make more of an impact? And Ruwaida has already touched on the importance of the various assignments that we do and how that influences the capital markets. But if I reflect on one of the client stories that's in our impact report, is the USAID project that we did in Tanzania, where we partnered with USAID in order to look to impact 800,000 lives of individuals living with HIV and AIDS. Which is significant.
Absolutely.
And I mean, during COVID, we saw the significance of the number of lives, specifically parts of the population who are disproportionately impacted based on various circumstances. We know that there's a strong focus on reducing HIV and AIDS, but the concerning aspect is that adolescent girls and young women make up 80% of new infections.
Yeah, sure.
So unfortunately, the situation is not being managed the way in which we hoped, which is why through the use of technology, we've been able to provide the various ministries of health in Tanzania with access to information so that data-driven insights can be created in order to prove healthcare outcomes. And that's one story. And being able to embed that in every single assignment that we do is what we're striving for.
Yeah. You want to give me another story?
Sure. A very exciting one is through our Enterprise Supply Development Program that we started in 2019. We identified a number of organizations, or who we call beneficiaries, who we look to partner with in order to help them, in order to ensure that they can be successful. So one of the organizations that we identified and worked with is called Delivery Car Speed, which means speedy delivery. And basically it was a entrepreneur, 25-year-old gentleman living in Hammanskraal, who wanted to create an opportunity to have fast food delivery in Hammanskraal, because there weren't any such services available. And we partnered with them in order to support him to get his business off the ground. He now employs 15 people. He also won an award quite recently in terms of the work that he's doing, and is continuing to inspire youths. And that's what we need in order to drive job creation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually seeing a headline, Beyond Auditing. Because I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, you're an auditing firm. Yes, you do advisory work, but I'm not seeing you in the community making that kind of a difference. And one of the things you speak about is that you are also seeking to make a difference on your environment as well as your society. I wanted to just touch briefly on what you're doing around the environment, because this is, of course, a topical story, especially as we head to Egypt in November.
So, firstly, as Deloitte Global, we have accepted science-based targets that have been signed off through the scientific-based target institutes. We are currently in the process of embedding that in everything that we do. So, as an example, every single event that we have, we look to be more sustainable. So really challenging ourselves in terms of what can we do, and ensuring that every decision we make, we understand the consequences. So the first thing is, being a professional services firm, we tend to travel quite a bit in order to serve our clients. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is ensuring that we understand what that impact is. So if I fly from Johannesburg to Durban, what is my carbon footprint that I'm creating from that journey, and reporting back, because you know, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it.
You won't be popular, especially after COVID, because people were stuck up for all these years, and then now suddenly we're free to travel again. I must think about the environment.
It's very important. We only have one planet, right?
Agreed.
But the other important aspect is, many organizations are grappling with how do they position themselves, how do they set these targets, how do they ensure that they're appropriate, how do they ensure that they understand the risks as well as the scenarios and costs associated in implementing these targets. And we are supporting many organizations, from mines to financial services organizations, in unpacking this, as well as working with the World Economic Forum various committees in order to identify how best do we set a appropriate standard in place, so that we can start measuring it more effectively.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me say this slowly. Purpose before profit. I suppose that's what you're speaking to, right?
So it's purpose beyond profit.
Purpose beyond profit. By the end of the program, I'd have gotten it right. It does speak to what you referred to earlier.
Correct. And Ashley is being quite kind there. So one of the things that she has done is, you know, she said, as an executive committee, we should not just talk the talk, but we must walk the talk as well. So she's worked with a group of individuals who've now created a leaderboard of individual EXCO members as well as board members, and she's tracking on a monthly basis what our individual carbon footprint is. Right now, I am not at the top of the leaderboard, but I'm very close, and Ashley reminds me of it very often. But what it does is that it makes sure that I know what my contribution is from a carbon emissions point of view. I'm more responsible as a result, and it makes me think twice. So it's about little individual decisions and actions that take place over a period of time.
It sounds complicated, though.
That's why we have Ashley.
Erica, I want to come to you and talk about one of the key things, of course, that worry you. And this is obviously something that has been challenging over the years: independence. In this report, what new insights are you guys bringing in? Because this is an age-old debate that we have had.
Look, I think if I look at audit and advisory, you know, we are a multidisciplinary firm, and we believe that we are a stronger firm because we are able to deliver quality audits, you know, through the strength of our advisory businesses. Maybe just
take a step back and explain to the layman the difference between the advisory that you're referring to and the audit side, and the key things that ought to be taken care of there that you're worried about, that you want to lay out in clear fashion.
100%. So when you look at an audit, I think as an auditor, our role is to actually opine on financial statements, you know, for the benefit of investors and people who rely on those financials to make investment decisions. So we play a very independent role of management because we go in and actually check what has actually been presented as the financial results, you know, reflect what should be there. So we play a very independent role from management. When you look at the advisory businesses, you actually work predominantly with management. So consulting, you go in and you do work hand in hand with management to actually resolve some of the issues that might be there. It might be, you know, saving costs or whatever case might be. So the one is a very independent opinion that you submit. The other one is really assisting and working the journey with management to resolve the challenges that you currently have.
Are those insights on the advisory side coming from the work that you do or that would have come out of audit?
Not. So when we look at the skill sets in advisory, we won't necessarily do the same services that you do in advisory businesses for our audit clients.
Okay.
And that's quite important. We've got very strict independence rules that actually tell you what is allowed, what's not allowed, and safeguards that one needs to put in place. However, that there's very specific skill sets that we do use from an advisory perspective, which we believe enhance the quality of the audit. And that's why the multidisciplinary model is critical for us, because we believe that we are a stronger firm in order to deliver audit quality. So some of the same safeguards that we have is we're very strict in terms of which clients are designated as advisory and where we shouldn't do any audit work, and which clients are audit clients where we shouldn't do advisory work.
Right.
And in most cases, we don't cross-pollinate unless, as I said, the specific skills that actually enhance the quality of the audit. Yeah.
So in our industry, we speak of Chinese walls, and I think amongst the bankers, they also speak of Chinese walls. You refer to guardrails here. I found that a little curious. I wanted to ask you what you mean.
So a guardrail, a Chinese wall would be a guardrail in our world. So basically what it means is where it could be perceived that you might have independence challenges. You need to make sure that you've considered everything around the work that you need to do. And those guardrails are then meant to make sure that you're not seen as not being independent. So for example, if you perform allowable services relating to tax, to an audit client, a guardrail might be the team that does some of that work is not the same team as the audit team. So that's what we mean by guardrails.
Sure.
Sorry, Godfrey, if I could weigh in on that. In the transparency report, we set out the details of our revenue for FY22.
Right.
And we talk about the fact that, for FY22, we made about 6.5 billion rand in revenue. We also then set out the split between the audit business and the advisory business.
Okay.
And, we have this history of being known to be an audit business, but we're actually a professional services firm.
Right.
And in fact, about 50% of our revenue comes from the audit business, and the other 50% comes from these advisory consulting businesses.
Sure.
Our audit clients and our consulting clients are not one and the same. And in fact, in the transparency report, we also talk about the fact that only 6% of the revenues that we earn come from the audit base. So 6% of non-audit services are provided out of our audit clients. And that 6% is work that we are allowed to do in terms of the Companies Act, in terms of international standards. And the other guardrail around that is we make sure that the work that we accept is allowed in terms of the regulations. But you also have audit committees of our clients who will have to pre-approve any services that your auditor is providing, or post a service being provided, it will have to be noted at the audit committee. So there's oversight over all services that the auditors are providing. But certainly, we believe that this multidisciplinary practice, the fact that we have 5 service lines, and nowadays, because of the complexity of audits, you actually need these specialist skills to sign off on an audit opinion. So you need skill set from the financial advisory business, valuations, corporate finance. You need skills from the tax experts. Cyber risk is becoming increasingly alarming and high on the radar. IT risk is something that you need to have an understanding of. And again, it's this combined expertise that allows an auditor to sign off on a set of on a set of financial statements.
What you have done in revealing your revenues and the splits in the terms of the revenues come from, is that industry wide?
So right now there is a discussion paper out which gives suggestions as to what a transparency report should provide. What we wanted to do as a firm, and we started, as I said, this is our 4th transparency report, but we wanted to put out a report that was meaningful, right? And that meant really trying to understand what it is that the public would want to know. They would want to know how we operate, where our revenues come from, And so that's the information that we've been providing. So we've been trying to go over and above what is required in terms of, the suggestions that are out there.
Yeah.
And the litmus test has been, are we sort of uncomfortable in providing the information?
Yes.
And if we are, then
Yeah,
we should
yeah,
provide it.
yeah,
And that's sort of how we've approached this transparency report.
Yeah, it sounds like I think perhaps it's something that we can follow up with the others as well and talk about a little bit about it. I wanted us to move on and talk about the other part that's in the report, which of course is an issue that's very South African centric, if I may say so. Diversity, though you can take diversity into any part of the world and certainly on the continent and talk about it. But from your report, let's talk about the key elements that you identify there.
So in our report, I talked about putting people at the heart of our business. And in order to do that, we wanted to have a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy.
Okay.
And when I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we include transformation in the South African context. So we are extremely proud of the various, strides that we have made. This is, I think, the 5th consecutive year when we have retained our our level 1 BE certification. But over and above that, again, we want to do it. We've always approached this as transformation being, let's do it not just because it's a business imperative, but because it is the right thing to do.
Right.
So I do want to brag, part of our transparency report, there's an entire section around transformation.
Yeah.
We are now at 48.5% black ownership at partner level.
Okay.
So 48.5% of our business are owned by black partners.
Sure.
37% of our business owned by women. Okay. We are still not where we want to be in terms of our target. We want to be at 51% black ownership by 2024 and 40% women ownership by 2024.
Yeah.
Now, this doesn't happen overnight.
No.
Right?
In fact, I was going to ask him how difficult it is to find the
Please do
graduates.
ask him.
Yeah, but please finish your thought.
So it doesn't happen overnight, and it's as a result of hard work that's been put, a deliberate action that's been taken in order to ensure that we have a pipeline of talented individuals, women and African black and broader black employees who we can promote within. My executive committee is currently 43% women, and I can't even say that it was deliberate in getting to it. Right. I wanted to create an executive that was diverse because there's a direct correlation between financial performance and good performance and diversity.
I've heard that line as well.
Correct. And so when I was putting together the executive structure, I wanted to find the best people. And the fact that 43% happen to be women is testament to the hard work that's come before, because suddenly there was a pool to choose from. And so these are things that we are extremely proud of, and we are working very hard to make sure that we get to the 51% black ownership and 40% female ownership by 2024.
There's a target date for that one?
2024.
2024, in 2 years.
Correct.
In 2 years. Eric, come in. I mean, we often speak about the fact that we know, given the background of South Africa, black people were not given the same opportunities as their white counterparts. So it follows then that it becomes more difficult to develop the talent from that sector. Are you finding it difficult to build up to the levels that she wants?
So Godfrey, I've been with Deloitte for 21 years.
You don't look it.
So, and what I can say is, I've seen a significant impact that we've made. So there's one thing to actually look at a snapshot, but when I look at the contribution that we've made over the years, it's been quite extraordinary.
Sure.
The number of CAs that have come and trained, some of them in business, some of them running big corporations. So I think the contributions on transformation for me are broader than just the snapshot from a Deloitte perspective. But to answer your question, it's tough. I think one of the things that we are faced with as an organization, and it's not necessarily black or white, it's actually the war for talent.
Right.
So we're finding that there is a migration of skills to either the northern hemisphere or to other countries. both black and white, and that's something that we still grappling with.
Sure.
Which makes it even more difficult.
Yeah.
When you do have, I guess, that skill shortage.
Yeah.
That we really need. But what I've seen, the way that speaks to the partner numbers. When I look at the number of junior staff, our trainees,
yeah.
We are significantly higher than the 48. We generally aim to be at 60% in terms of intake,
right.
and we've consistently delivered on that.
Yeah.
And I guess the attraction and retention, and I guess the war for talent is what then makes it quite difficult, to keep them in-house.
Yeah.
But having said that, I'm then proud to say, the more we can produce in terms of skills, and the more we can push into the economy, the better we are as society. Yeah,
I remember the days, I think maybe 10 years ago or something like that, when there was a war for talent. When you found people who stayed in a job 6 months, they move on, they get a higher salary, somebody poaches them and they move on and they move on. It didn't stop. But actually, I just wanted to speak to that. How important is it to have that diversity, not only from a numbers perspective, but from the belief that the industry is actually taking strides to transform? Because you deal with sustainability, right?
It's absolutely critical. In order to ensure that we are able to attract the best talent and keep them is our number one job.
Sure.
And as part of that, one of the things that we've introduced about 4 years ago now is our Next Gen Council, which is made up of millennials and Gen Zs.
Okay.
And
I know about those people. I struggle with them here, I can tell you that.
No, but what they say is very important for us to understand, because they are the future. And when looking at the surveys that have been done at a global level, we see that ESG related matters and purpose are the most important things for them, which allows us to embed those principles into everything that we do in order to attract and retain them. And I have the privilege to lead the council, and one of the things that is most impactful for me is that they're able to help us with all the tough things that we're dealing with. So looking at climate change, how do we get all our professionals to make better decisions, to embed it in everyday life? They challenge us consistently in terms of are all the utensils that we have in our canteen, for example, sustainable? And I can confirm that they are. But ensuring that we remain relevant and really drive our purpose agenda into everything that we do. Yeah,
they are very challenging. I can affirm to that. And we have many battles in our newsroom with the Gen Zs, and sometimes we don't agree, because I also come from a school of thought that says you're learning, so you need to listen to me as much as I am listening to you. And I can tell you they are laughing right now.
So Godfrey, I often tell a story of I really enjoy talking to our VAC students. So these are students who are still doing their undergrad or their postgrad at universities, and then during their VAC weeks they come into Deloitte and we give them exposure to the firm, on the basis that when they do join us 2 or 3 years down the line, they're in a familiar environment. And in July this year, I had the opportunity to go and address the July cohort of VAC students, and I went and I just talked to them for about 10 minutes, completely unscripted, around purpose, why what we do matters, our role in society. And then I said, I'm opening the floor, you can ask me any questions that you want to. And there were probably about 150 kids.
You're very brave.
Yes.
You are very brave, I can tell you that.
And so we had, the first question was a very polite question asking for some advice, how do you get to become the CEO? The second question was another very polite question. And the third question was a young man in the back of the room, and he put up his hand and he said to me, over the last 2 or 3 days, we've heard about the CA profession, about what Deloitte is doing, how fantastic you are, but what are the things that you are really struggling with? What keeps you awake at night? What are your challenges? What are you doing about restoring the profession? And I said to him, great question, and I tried to answer it as best I can. And that seemed to have opened up the floodgates. The next question was around, what are you doing about climate change, about having a bigger voice? And the questions became harder and harder, and I absolutely loved it. And that's the thing about millennials and Gen Zs. They do have the ability to challenge us.
They do.
And they hold us accountable to a higher standard as leaders.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that. So the Next Gen Council that Ashley is talking about is an opportunity to give the youngsters a voice to challenge us and to be part of the solution. And what we want to do is make sure that, as part of this inclusive culture that we want to create, we give everyone the opportunity to create an environment that we can all be proud of.
Which speaks to the other project that you have in this report. Is it in the report, the Africa Talent issue? It is in this report as well. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I found that one fascinating in particular, because amongst our staff members here, we have got someone who's sort of already in that space, but we don't characterize it the same way.
So what we recognize, and Eric started talking about it, but there is a war for talent globally. And Africa has great resources. We have minerals, etc., etc. But the other biggest resource that we are sitting on at the moment is talent. We're over 1 billion people on the continent, highly urbanized population, very skilled from a technology point of view, and young people who are absolutely hungry and who want to make Africa a better continent. And these youngsters, as I said, highly tech skilled and can learn accreditation in various systems, ERP systems almost overnight. Right? And so there is this massive resource that we are sitting on, and we've been contemplating over the last couple of months, years, in fact, as to how we really make use of this resource, but do it in a way that we retain the skills and we build capabilities in Africa, but we retain the skills in Africa. And in doing so, we then, this capability that we build from a technology point of view is retained in Africa and then grows the African continent from an economy point of view. Right. And that's what Africa Talent is all about.
Yeah, and this spans across all service lines. Right. I think for me that's the important thing, and it's about building capability in different areas.
Are you employing them?
Yes. So we've got a separate company where we're gonna have resources sitting in them. Okay. And the idea is really to build that capability, build skills, and they will be able to serve both, I guess, local clients to the extent that our business needs them. Yeah. But predominantly also clients outside of the Africa network. So we're giving them opportunities to actually build skills and serve clients that they wouldn't otherwise serve. Okay. But if I take a step back, it actually says, well, when we look at the traditional way of how we used to resource, it was very linear in terms of you go to university, you do your CA, then you become, you do your articles, then you qualify as a chartered accountant. And what we're doing differently is to say, let's think about building capability differently from the traditional way of doing things. If we know that there's an aging population, in Europe and the rest of the world, we're sitting on a gold mine of people. An example that I want to use is in Kenya, in our East business, when we wanted to employ people, for 100 positions, we received in excess of 5,000 applications. Sure. Okay. So people want to work, and if we build capability centers, where we upskilling individuals and giving them opportunities, which is quite critical, opportunities within the continent and opportunities outside. Then I think we'll get to a position where the capabilities can then retain and we can grow our economies.
I found it fascinating that you, by working with these youngsters, and I'm using the word working advisedly, you are getting them into the work environment, while at the same time still allowing them the freedom to do what they do. How difficult can that be? Because at the beginning, I told you I've got one staff member here who is in that situation, and I struggled at the beginning because now I was thinking, how do I measure your work? How do I ensure that she's working for me when she says she's working for me, and that kind of thing? How are you solving that problem?
So I think, firstly, Africa Talent is an example of what purpose beyond profit means. And really what we're trying to do here is to say we as a professional services firm in Africa, we're part of a global network. But what we want to do is use our collective IP, because that's what we have. We don't sell widgets. We are a people's business. And so what we have is our IP. We employ chartered accountants, actuaries like Ashley, engineers, and a whole host of professional software engineers, etc. And really what we want to do is utilize that collective IP to solve for some of the continent's most pressing challenges, including financial inclusion, inequality, lack of access to education, unemployment, right? So what Africa Talent is trying to do is to say, who are the unemployed youth out there? Let's take them into the organization. Let's take school leavers in potentially, right? Who did not have the opportunity to go and, further their studies at a tertiary institution. And let's give them a skill set and create capability for the benefit of Deloitte and our clients. But also, even if we feed them into the marketplace, that is an incredible contribution to society. And that's what purpose beyond profit means.
No, absolutely. You couldn't have put it better. I'm certainly going to be following up on that one to find out how many people's lives you have touched and whether you are succeeding. Actually, we need to wrap up, but you wanted to make a point quickly.
Yes, I mean, just in terms of the number of people that we're looking at employing, just in terms of the consulting business over the next 5 years is around about 12,000 people.
Wow, double where you are
in terms of Africa Talent.
Oh, in terms of Africa Talent, okay, gotcha.
By partnering with our colleagues in Europe, which is absolutely critical. And I think, this is likely to expand over time and ensuring that we continue to use technology and hybrid work models, as well as those millennials that
the difficult ones
make you question things, really helping us to change our paradigm as in terms of driving outcomes-based work rather than necessarily the traditional approaches of bums in seats.
Absolutely. Yeah, they certainly keep me awake at night. I'm going to give you an opportunity to frame your message in terms of the big conference that's coming up, but also to speak to the future in your role as the new Chief Sustainability Officer.
Thank you very much. So we know COP27 is coming up soon.
100%,
we are very excited to see how the funding in terms of just transition will be articulated in terms of which programs will be selected and how those will be rolled out. We are anxious to get those programs up and running as soon as possible due to the limited time we have in order to make these transitions. And I think some of the energy crisis that we've had recently really, talks to that. Deloitte has, over the past number of years, made a significant impact in terms of the types of work that we do, how we impact society, as well as the work that we do for our clients. And I'm very proud to say that over the last 7 years, Deloitte globally has invested in communities through donations, through pro bono services and volunteerism to the amount of $1.7 billion US.
Sure.
And we are looking to increase that over time. We're just starting. And we truly believe that we can continue to be a force for good.
Very, very, very important conversation. No question about it. Another time, another platform, we must talk about how that just transition is just or not just. Eric, your final thoughts?
Yeah, so when I reflect on quality, so for me, that this is the start of a journey. I think, as Rhoda said earlier, that this is going to be evolving. The quality bar keeps getting higher and higher, and the new ways of doing audits and also advisory is changing. Rhoda made reference to, I guess, doing things with a digital mindset. But for me, the key thing is, we will always keep quality underpinned by 4 key principles, which is the outcome has to be upholding trust, in terms of the public. Whatever we do matters, and what we do in most cases is really for the benefit of the public. So upholding trust is quite critical. Ethics and integrity, whatever we do, will always be in an ethical and with high level of integrity. Then accountability, we'll actually make sure that we do hold people accountable. And lastly, we'll do this with proper governance and transparency.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Eric, for those thoughts. Rhoda, I didn't get an opportunity to talk about an aspect that you and I have discussed before around holding oneself accountable, and how that model that you guys have developed at Deloitte should be, I insist, should be taken to the national level where cabinet could be held in the same way. Another day, another time. But I wanted to give you a final thought to just come up very quickly and sum up for us in terms of the message that you're sending with this report.
No, thank you. Godfrey, I think we understand the role that we have to play as a professional services firm. The last 3 to 4 years, yes, have been rather difficult, and there's been significant scrutiny, rightfully, around the accounting profession, the auditing profession. But we believe that as a firm, we want to run towards the fire, and we want to solve for some of the challenges and restore the trust.
Yep.
And the transparency report is our way of communicating with the public about our contribution to our clients, to our people, and to society and the economies. And we welcome any engagement with our clients and the public around this.
Yep.
We are on a journey, and this journey will see growth. We'll see our advisory and our consulting businesses certainly scaling.
Yeah.
But all of this underpinned by the values and our purpose of really going beyond just profit.
Yeah.
And that is what is going to guide us into the future.
Absolutely. You've held up your hand, no question about it. Now let's see what comes after that. Thanks very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. I was going to make sure that I say this correctly. Profit beyond purpose.
Purpose beyond profit.
Somebody has written this one here wrong. Hey, I'll take your final word. That concludes our discussion this afternoon for the launch of the Deloitte Transparency and Impact Report. Thank you very much indeed, all of us, from all of us here for joining us. I speak on behalf of Rueda Redfern, CEO of Deloitte Africa, Eric Chabalala, Audit and Assurance Managing Partner, Deloitte Africa, and Ashley Theoanifidis, Chief Sustainability Officer, Deloitte Africa. Until next time, thank you for joining us, and goodbye.